Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I don't mean to start off on a sobering note, but there was another horrible mass shooting in Maine last night. Let's just keep the folks in Lewiston, Maine in our thoughts and prayers. I was reading about it, and we've had 565 mass shootings in this country this year, which is just a horrifying statistic. So, first, well, let's just keep all of our friends and neighbors from Maine and the rest of the country in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Welcome to the Experience Series. I'm Don DePero, your president and CEO of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. And this, of course, is our talent and workforce initiative here at the Chamber. We really appreciate you coming out. This is the one event that we tried to stay in person as best we could during the pandemic, and it's always gotten a really good response. And I know our members, which now total about 2,340, are all constantly looking for people, looking for talent, not knowing where to go. And so it's just a constant struggle. So we really appreciate you joining us this morning. Many, many thanks to GBQ for sponsoring this and hosting it in this beautiful venue. The views up here are amazing, especially on a beautiful fall morning like this. And you just look out and you see the development in our great city, and it's just so wonderful, especially on the peninsula, which 5 years ago, there was nothing over there, which is absolutely amazing. And special thanks to Darcy Congrove, the managing director of GBQ, who was our former board chair and still is on our board of directors at the Chamber, who's great. So without further ado, thank you again for joining us. I'd like to bring up Emily Frankhauser. Emily is the manager of assurance operations here at GBQ.
Thank you, Don, and good morning, everyone. I was going to encourage you to take a look over the balcony, but Don stole my thunder. So at some point today, if you haven't, the view out there is beautiful. Get a picture. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today as a presenting sponsor of the Experience Series. Again, welcome to GBQ. My name is Emily Fankhauser. I am the Assurance Operations Manager. So I handle all of our scheduling, resource allocation. I kind of view myself as air traffic controller, if you will. I kind of have a big view of everybody, but I'm going to be transitioning into a learning and development role at the firm. So looking forward to continue to focus on workforce development. And I am actually a former educator. So I was a teacher for 7 years prior to transitioning to my role here at GBQ. So I'm especially excited to be here today. For those of you who aren't familiar with the firm, we are a full service accounting firm here in the Columbus market. We also have a presence in Toledo and Cincinnati. And we recently celebrated our 70th year in operation, which is amazing to kind of think about all that's happened. Even in the 8 years that I've been here, I think when I started, there were 150 associates, and now we're over the 300 mark. So we've seen a lot of growth over the years. We are a top 100 accounting firm in the United States, so we're really proud of that designation as well. We are committed here at GBQ to empowering growth of our clients, our people, and the communities in which we live and work. We've recently expanded our global reach. We have offices now in the Philippines and India, which is super exciting. Darcy and I actually in February took a 2-week world tour, if you will, and spent a week in the Philippines and a week in India, getting, those operations up and running. I think one of the reasons that we went that route, our profession, like every other profession right now, is not immune to the struggles of developing and retaining a talented workforce. So we had to think outside the box by tapping into, alternative resources that weren't necessarily from a 4-year college that we're used to recruiting from. We also have a great partnership with Columbus State, where we have people who have either changed careers or are going back to get their accounting degree. And we have an internship with those individuals to come in here, work for 20 hours a week while they're getting their accounting degree and get that experience of what it is to be an accountant at a public firm. So a lot of great, exciting things happening at the firm. And again, we're happy to have you all here. So today we're going to hear about the Educator Workforce Boot Camp that happened in June of this past year. The Columbus Chamber Educational Service Center of Central Ohio and several local businesses partnered to launch the inaugural Educator Workforce Boot Camp. This initiative was designed to empower educators with the skills and resources necessary to prepare students for an ever-evolving workforce landscape. I actually had to buy dress pants for today because that's how much the landscape has changed. We are in a things have changed in the past 4 years, in particular with COVID and all of that. So thank you again for being here. I'd now like to introduce Kelly Fuller, Vice President of Talent and Workforce Development for the Columbus Chamber, to begin our program.
Could I ask the panel to join me as well? Good morning, everybody. As Emily mentioned, I'm Kelly Fuller. My role at the Chamber is Vice President of Talent and Workforce Development. So I have the great honor every day of being able to connect with our members and others in the community to help bridge some of these gaps that we know exist in finding and developing a strong workforce. I'm going to go down the line here and ask our four guests on the panel to introduce themselves. And I'm going to start here with Anthony.
I'm Anthony Murphy. I'm Executive Director of Lead the Way Learning Academy. We're a workforce development agency that focuses with youth ages 16 through 19.
My name is Casey Martin. I'm an assistant principal at Groveport Madison High School. I oversee our career tech pathways as well as special education, athletic department, and some other various programs that we have going on.
Good morning. I'm Jama Cobb, and I'm with the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio. I'm a work-based learning coordinator.
Sorry. Good morning. I'm Erica Bachman. I am a consultant at CGI. CGI is one of the world's largest business and IT consulting firms with over 90,000 employees.
Well, welcome, everyone. So as was mentioned, over the summer, we put together in cooperation with the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio and several of our business partners an opportunity for educators in the classroom, guidance counselors, those in administration from a multitude of different districts to go into different industry sectors to explore, like, what's a day in the life of someone in that particular industry. And we looked at IT, healthcare, construction, and manufacturing. So educators had an opportunity to be in this immersive experience. I'm going to start with Jama because Jama, this was really kind of a vision that started with you. How did this all come about? How did the Educator Workforce Bootcamp idea get started?
Well, I would lean back into my background. So I was in the workforce and worked in the finance department and just always was drawn to education and had the privilege of getting into it at a later age. And what I realized is just the gap between what educators have the ability to share with students and the workforce. So for me, it was just really important to help as a work-based learning coordinator. My job is really to bridge the gap between education and the workforce pipeline. So, when the educators spend 16,000 plus hours with students, obviously they have a big impact and influence over the students. So it just made sense for them to be that conduit to help explain, what's out there.
So for those of us in the audience that may not be familiar with an education service center, specifically the Education Service Center of Central Ohio, tell us about what the organization does and why it's there.
So that could be an entire morning in itself. We do so much there. But in my department, in the Center for Achievement, our focus is really as a work-based learning coordinator, again, to help facilitate our 30 districts. So we support districts in Franklin County is our biggest, of course, but in other contiguous counties. And really, we're trying to raise the tide for all of them to help the students have the best opportunity to know or at least have an idea of a path that they want to pursue and not to wait until after they get out of high school to really start exploring. The time is now. The time is while they're in school and we have a captive audience and we can expose them to those opportunities. So yeah, just really serving not only our students, our districts, but also, the businesses in that pipeline that needs to be built.
Now, how many districts do you serve?
So we have 32, but yeah, so it's a big lift.
Big lift.
Yeah.
So if businesses want to have communication even with different districts, you guys would be a great place to start.
Yeah, we really try to take the burden off of the districts and the businesses because I don't know if you've ever tried to get into a school district, who do you call? You get, a main number and then you just try to figure out you on a wing and a prayer who's the best person to get a hold of. And in every district that looks different, it could be the guidance counselor who's, got a million other things on their shoulders who is putting fires out all day. It could be someone like Casey who is designated to really focus on that connectivity for businesses. So in every district it's different and sadly it changes from year to year too. So if we can be that one stop where they can contact us and we can help disseminate who needs to be in the conversation, that's really our goal.
I'm going to turn to the educators for a minute, Anthony and Casey, and ask you each, like, how did you get involved in this? Like, what made this an attractive option for you? I'll start with you, Anthony.
So off rip, JAMA and the ESC have been tremendous for Lead the Way as an advocate, as a resource. So anything that they ever have going on that I can be a part of, I want to be part of. And she's been part of that process for us, linking the businesses and the schools. So anytime if there's a business that wants to get linked or a school that wants to get linked, I'll definitely contact JAMA. When that opportunity came up to be around educators in the districts that I saw involved, it was a no-brainer.
So tell us a little bit about Lead the Way, because some folks may not know what Lead the Way Academy is and the students that you serve.
So we are funded by Franklin County Job and Family Services, Franklin County Commissioners. And so our program, what makes us unique is we provide paid work experiences, and we're also able to pay these students when they're doing these pre-apprenticeships. So that's a big deal. It's a little bit different. The other thing is we have a 12-point industry recognized credentials for the educators that are out there. It's an alternative pathway to graduation. And so being able to provide these is what makes us different. And a lot of people are kind of catching up to what we've been doing. But we've partnered with Groveport, and this is our third year in the school building, offering those credentials and offering pre-apprenticeships and work experiences to their youth.
Very good. So Casey, I'm going to go to you because I know you're at Groveport. So I'll ask you the same question. How did you what enticed you about doing this experience because it was during the summer, you were technically not in school anymore. What was the enticement?
Well, the enticement first was I was new to taking over CTE. I was familiar with what CTE is in education, but there's so much that goes into it. Um, there's a lot of criteria and regulations that you have to make sure that from a structural piece that you have everything in place, so that way we're giving our kids the opportunities to link up with Lead the Way. And then Jama, I'm gonna piggyback off of Mr. Murphy. She is fantastic, and everybody at ESC does an amazing job of trying to help us, at least from my perspective and my role within education, organize and structure ourselves so that we're giving our kids and families the best opportunities possible to move forward. Because high school is the last stop, and education is changing, just like the workforce is changing. So we're always trying to adapt and be proactive so that way we're helping our kids. So she is fantastic, and the team she works with is fantastic as well. So back to your original question. In order for me to be able to do my job effectively, I have to know all the intricacies that go into this, right? So, and there's a lot of moving pieces and there's a lot of people that will help CTE specifically be successful. Um, my role is to try to help support and organize and structure. So going out there and talking to the businesses and seeing what they're trying to do to invest was something that I was intrigued with as well. I've worked with Anthony in the past, so I want to, try to link up with him more. So building the connections and trying to learn more is what intrigued me.
So as someone with a CTE career tech ed background myself, totally understand and appreciate your approach there. Erica, you're our lone business person on the panel today that participated in the boot camp as well. And you and your company CGI actually hosted the educators as they came through. Tell us a little bit about the experience because you're an IT company, tell us a little bit about the experience that you put the educators through and what your takeaway was from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as she mentioned, we are one of the businesses that hosted sessions for the educators. And when planning the curriculum for the educators, we wanted to make it meaningful and really relevant. And so before working in technology, I was a first grade teacher. So when I was planning the curriculum for it, I had in the back of my mind, like, what do teachers need? What do teachers want? And so in our sessions, we provided information on different careers in software development, but also experiences with different activities that the teachers could take back to their classroom to help students connect. And we really just want individuals to be exposed to these different career options early and provide them with the tools and information and an overview of skills. So it was a really exciting experience to be a part of, really meaningful. And it was just really exciting to see how enthusiastic and that the educators were. I wasn't sure how engaged they would be because it was very student centered, but they really just enjoyed it. And we could tell that they wanted to try out some of these activities in their own classroom.
I was really lucky to be at CGI during one of the experiences, and I think I sat behind you, Anthony, and watched you. What were you creating?
So we were creating like what we wanted a website to look like and what that would look like. And just kind of being hands on and being visual, I think was a really big deal. I had a lot of fun doing it, and it was a cool visit. The thing I like about it is everybody thinks about CTE, and it's kind of used to be just construction and a couple other pathways, but now the businesses that are coming on that are making these opportunities open to our young people is amazing. So I think sky's the limit. Any business that is thinking about should we invest in high school, I think that's where it starts. That exposure piece is so important. Waiting till they turn 18 or to graduate from high school, or wait till they're 22 to graduate from college to let them know about your business is a little bit too late.
I agree. Um, do you have a memorable experience, Casey, from when you were out? Like I said, I don't know that I was there to watch you, but I was fascinated by Anthony's drawing. Did you have an experience during either CGI or the other businesses where it was kind of like, this is really cool? I've never thought about this before.
Oh, absolutely. I think actually every experience was really meaningful. Every business, there's a lot of similarities and there are some differences. Just just in the nature of the businesses that we were visiting. But I will say the one thing that I take away the most out of all of this was that, and I'm gonna use Erica and her business as well. What I learned from them is that you don't have to go the traditional route of trying to go into these careers. And a lot of careers are able to they want to invest in you. And I agree with Anthony that the exposure piece is really important. And I don't want to jump ahead in any questions, but for me, when having conversations with kids, and I'm sure if anybody in here has children of your own, this will relate to you. You have conversations with your children, like, what do you want to do with your life, right? What career do you want to go into? Kids don't know; they have no idea. So you don't know what you don't know. So doing something like this, especially from a career tech pathway aspect, but not only that, but getting teachers exposed to what's really out there and how businesses are evolving really does shape for a more authentic learning experience. So they're engaging with either soft skills or they're engaging with material that is real life, right? Um, and it's that exposure that is really going to help kids turn the light bulb on and say, "Oh, this is something I'm really interested in. Oh, I didn't know I could do something like that. Oh, let me learn more about that." So when you can have those type of experiences at a younger age, and also including parents in this as well. That's a really big piece. Again, I go back to say you don't know what you don't know. And even from parents, like I didn't know some of the stuff that was going on. And I'm a parent myself, right? So being able to give them data, give especially with different job forces that are out there and how Columbus in within itself is growing and the different careers that are growing, um, you're able to foster more authentic conversations to where kids are going to move in a direction that's going to really benefit and allow them to have a more successful life.
No, I agree with all of that. I even in the role that I'm in workforce and kind of, in this every single day, excuse me, it's not unusual for me to hear of a job or an industry opportunity that I'd never heard of before. It's something brand new. So, in staying with that thought, Jama, how is the ESC, like, what are you seeing as far as like different industries or different job types that might be popping up that would be good for educators to know about or businesses to be able to come into education and share? I guess I'm asking, like, we talked about like those traditional CTE programs, construction, auto body, all of those. What else are you seeing?
All. We're seeing it all. And, you know, for me personally, there's a lot of pressure to prepare our students because industry and business need them. You know, Kelly, obviously you were my first call, you know, to partner for this because you have a complete pulse on what's happening in the region. And so, really, it's not even at your career tech schools anymore. This is in comprehensive schools where we're busting at the seams in career tech. So your comprehensive schools are starting to open the door for more programming, and it's robotics, it's broadband. I mean, it's expanding into careers. You know, we don't even know what some of the careers are coming down the pike with AI, and you know, so we just have to be creative. We've got to get outside of the mindset of being in a brick and mortar building. We need to get students out and exposed. We need to realign schedules to give them these experiences. And so this just really helps educators understand that school's changing. It needs to change. And you know, being able to talk, I want to back up and say this wasn't just a career tech experience. This was comprehensive educators. So we had middle school through 12th grade. We had administrators to science teachers to math. And it was really intriguing to watch the light bulb go off even for the educators and saying, oh my goodness, I can think of 4 students right now that have no idea this job exists. And I'm going to go back and talk to them about it because I see them connecting. I see the skills and abilities, and the kids take interest inventories every year. You know, how do we help align those interest and inventory results to a pathway that's meaningful and exciting for these students?
Erica, you were again in a unique position, having been an educator yourself, and then you're on the other side of it during the boot camp. What type of skills and memories did you draw on from your experience as an in classroom teacher to help the educators learn?
Yeah, so I would say one of the most important things that students can work on at an early age is developing those soft skills. The technical skills within IT, technology, and consulting are important, but those can really be developed and strengthened as you get more experiences. So, one of the activities that I led in the session was designing a school building, which relates to a project manager role. So, who is a person who thinks about the big picture and brings people together. And so teachers were in small groups and they were thinking about what would it be cool for my school building to have? What does it need? What resources? And also what would be really nice to have that we don't have already. And that was just a demonstration of how important it is to have these communication skills to collaborate. And I think it'd be great for the students to do that too, to practice taking on leadership roles. So the soft skills, even in elementary school, are important to start building. When I was teaching first grade, things like listening, having empathy, working together, those are things that we modeled and practiced. And they can be hard at times, like taking turns is always hard. But the more that you model and practice those skills, the more that students can do as they get older, they get more opportunities. So when planning that curriculum for the session, we wanted it to focus on those different soft skills because that will really help you as you grow professionally in any of these careers and in your personal life as well. So, those were things that came to mind when we were creating things, that interaction, those conversations, and bringing that back to the classroom.
So let's stay with the soft skill conversation. Anthony, I know at Lead the Way Learning Academy, you do a lot to take care of the whole student. You provide wraparound services in addition to the classroom experience. What are you doing at Lead the Way to help those young people, the students that you serve, develop soft skills? Or I would argue that soft skills aren't so soft, right? They're really critical. How are you addressing that?
So we've developed a curriculum kind of centering around Ohio means jobs. And so going through the OMJ readiness seal, so using those skills and competencies, and then also, mock interviews, how to dress at a job. So we're doing, proper dress. We're doing, uh, how to get, once you get the job, how to get a raise. All the different things that a young person has to understand, because a lot of times they're chasing jobs for money. And I think that's kind of a big piece of what we encounter. I'm trying to get a young person to take a work experience that they only get paid $13 an hour. And they're like, well, I can go to Taco Bell or I can go to White Castle and make 15. or even the pre-apprenticeships that don't pay, like Lead the Way is able to pay. They say, well, why would I go do a pre-apprenticeship for free? I can go make $17 because they're thinking in the immediate. And so just kind of reframing and helping their minds think and understand big picture, right? We were all young once. We saw just the immediate, but trying to help them see big picture, I think, is a big deal.
So from a business perspective, for someone sitting in our audience that might want to hire one of your students, when you talk about the funding, is the business paying for that young person to come on board, or how does that work?
So it's kind of our goal ultimately is for a young person to get hired by your organization, but we can provide a work experience for up to 160 hours where we pay the students wages. And what we're asking the organization to do is to help us provide that evaluation. So we go along the lines of, again, that OMJ readiness seal. So you give us an evaluation of how the student did. If the student did a bad job and they struggled on a couple things and maybe they're not somebody you want to bring on, that's okay. It's a teachable moment. We can go back with the young person, evaluate what they did, and say, hey, we can get better here, get better there. But if it works out well, they can end up getting a job, offered to them. We've had work experiences at Hilton and other businesses where young people started as a work experience and it turned into a job for them. And the young people are excited. The best part about the Hilton, it was amazing, is you get a free meal. And so we had students that would like text me a picture, Mr. Murphy, look, I tried this today. I tried that today. And it's just different because you see some of the situations they start from, what it's like at their home life, and exposing them to things that are different and making them think outside the box. As the years have gone on, you just get to see these great success stories.
I was really lucky a few months ago to ride with you and Miss Jackie out to one of the skilled nursing facilities in New Albany where you had students placed. Tell everybody what was happening there. There was a relationship between Lead the Way Learning Academy and and a staffing agency that also has education and training. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so VIP Supreme Staffing, who's also a member of the Chamber, which again, the Chamber has been another amazing advocate for Lead the Way and a great resource. VIP Staffing provides training to our young people, and it's a 3-week program over the summer. So you talk about getting your STNA license, that being a long, drawn out process during a school year or sometimes multiple year process. These students knocked it out over the summer with VIP Supreme Staffing, and then they got clinicals. So what Kelly came on was a trip to see the clinicals where they're actually in a nursing home working with patients. And this is where you learn, do you really want to do this or not? It's real deal, real people. It's not practice. You're not practicing on a mannequin. So you're talking changing, people of the opposite sex. For a young person at 16 or 17 years old, that can be a shock. You're cleaning up after someone that may have used the restroom on themselves. And so really just, just exposure, young people overcoming, those barriers in their mind, and then seeing what they want to do and be, and having that opportunity, is priceless. It really is priceless.
I love that connection, and again, breaking down the barriers between the actual workplace and the educators and the students that you support. Casey, you're also, from a lens of, you're an administrator at Groveport, so you had the experience over the summer. How are you going to take that experience back to share with your teachers, your classroom teachers that maybe didn't participate?
Absolutely. So this is stuff that we've already started to work on. It's the connections and partnerships between the teachers and businesses. And again, I think the biggest thing that I want to try to bring back to is, again, like with what Mr. Murphy is saying, is that exposure, but more so what our role as a school is providing kids opportunities. Um, Education is changing and evolving. We all know that, but so how are we going to be able to adapt to our kids and to our families? I think again, it comes back to what Mr. Murphy said too. Kids want to look at the immediate, and also college, right? We have this mindset that we always have to go to college to go and have a successful career and job, and that's not the case. So it's now, okay, how are we going to be able to provide raw, real data to parents and with kids to where they can conceptualize and understand it, right? So and then what that does when we're doing this is we're fostering real authentic conversations about how parents can help support their kid to move on and be successful in life. That's really meaningful. With the kids that I serve, we are a diverse school, and our kids want to see things that are tangible, right? So partnering with Lead the Way, partnering with in the businesses, what we're trying to do, and we're working on still, right? There's always opportunities for refinement, but it's again trying to get this exposure back out. Teachers getting real examples from the partnerships from the different businesses that they're connecting with, getting work-based learning hours. So that way they're getting that exposure and working on the skill sets, trying to work on pre-apprenticeships, credentialing, things that mean something to where they can go and work with the job. Another thing too that was really eye-opening for me and reassuring to me was that how much these businesses that I was connected with during this experience that want to invest into kids, saying, listen, come and work for us now and we will invest into you and we'll pay for college. So with the families that I serve, that's a big deal because they may not be able to afford college for their kids, and let alone they don't want their kids to be in so much debt once they graduate high school. So now what this does is provide a level of hope that they can go and do some of these extraordinary things and these different careers they never thought would have been, you know, in their grasp.
In some cases, the parents and educators may not know about some of these because we talked about it's ever evolving. I will say that this year, with our chamber membership, so far, I've conducted 275 one-on-one consultations with businesses. And in quarter 3, 42% of those consultations were businesses asking, how do I connect to schools? I really want to get in this space. I want to understand the K through 12 environment. And, so it kind of reinforce that we're on the right track with these boot camps that we're doing. I want to spend a minute and kind of ask the question that sometimes is hard. And Eric, I'm going to start with you. But the question is, what from a business perspective, and then I'll ask the educators as well. What's the hesitancy? Just said we've got 42% that have asked about it, but there are some businesses that may be hesitant into getting involved with educators coming into their workplace or possibly hiring students that have not yet graduated high school. Talk about some of the hesitancy, if there was any with CGI, and if there wasn't, like, why did you guys jump in?
Yeah, so we did not have any hesitancy. We were very excited to jump in, but I can imagine that it might be challenging for other businesses because they might not know how to connect with educators, how to provide things that the educators need to bring back to their classroom. And I'm not saying that's the case, but there might be some disconnect there where we really need to have more conversations about it. We are really excited to participate. We want to give back to our community. We want to be a resource. And as it was already mentioned, what we don't know what we don't know. People might not know about all these different careers in technology. There's lots of room to grow in these conversations. And if we can talk to educators and talk to our community about the different opportunities, then they can bring that back to their school and their teachers and their students. And they can decide if maybe this is a pathway that they want to go in. They're the role models, and students really look up to them. So we are very excited to be part of this to help connect those things and just get students exposed.
And I know that CGI is working with Dublin schools. Is that correct? Are you able to share a little bit about what that project looks like?
Yeah, JAMA connected us to Dublin City Schools, to Lori Messy, who is a coordinator at their Emerald campus. And Emerald campus is a school that students can go to and elect to take classes in high school and really take part in work-based learning opportunities. And it's an amazing building. It doesn't look like the traditional school. It has lots of classrooms, things on like fashion. We saw people making prints on t-shirts, just everything you can imagine. And one of their classes is focused on software development and IT. So this school year, we are planning to do sessions with that classroom and teacher focused on these different careers in software development and in consulting. So our first session will really just be like an overview of here are the different careers. And then throughout the school year, we will provide additional sessions focused on one career. So really doing a deep dive. So one session might be on a software developer. Another might be on a business analyst. And our hope is to just really be a resource for these students, to give them insight into the careers, what our day-to-day looks like, and answer any questions they might have, and also explain our different pathways to getting there. I did not go through an additional college degree to move into technology. I went through a coding boot camp through Tech Elevator, which is in the area. And so being able to let them know that they don't have to necessarily go to that 2 or 4 year college, as we mentioned, there's other options such as that.
Anthony, I'm going to start with you, and then Casey, same question from an educator's perspective or an administrator's perspective. What are the things that kind of cause you a little bit of anxiety about going out into the business community, or maybe you don't have it at all?
I think our situation is a little different because we are workforce development, so we don't have that reluctancy. But I do think for schools, it's a great responsibility. You're responsible for students. I know Groveport has over 2,000 students, and so you just want to be careful with the relationships and who you allow access to your students. So I think that's something that takes time. I would just ask any business to be patient with the schools as they're working through that process of vetting who they're going to allow to have that relationship and what it looks like. It just takes time.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that too. Um, what's hard for my role is structure, right? There's you want to make sure that we are intentional with vertical alignment. There are requirements with the ODE in terms of how we're going to implement career tech pathways. So structure is really important. Scheduling is really important. Recruiting is really important. All that, there's just a lot of pieces that go into it. It's not so much necessarily building the partnerships with the businesses. I think that there are plenty of businesses out there right now, at least from my experience, that are wanting to be involved with our students. I think the biggest thing is okay, how we're going to make this work, because our kids struggle with transportation. So how we're gonna get them to go to these different places, right? So there are a lot of real variables that present challenges, but um, and again, it's not so much hesitation, it's pausing, thinking, and moving forward that where it makes sense and that we know it's going to work. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to put something in place and then have it crumble and set kids up to fail. I don't want to do that. So I'd much rather take time to have the conversations, to have the structures in place, so that way when we do move forward, that we feel confident that it's going to work.
So Jama, kind of a variation on that question for you. Um, when we were working on this together at the beginning, how were you recruiting educators to come to the boot camp? Like, what enticed them? What about this experience was really beneficial?
Well, I'll tell you, the attendees are naturally passionate about their students. So just because they're committed to making sure their students get the best experiences, I think that was first. And we have a few of the attendees in the room as well. So uh, really beyond that, I think it was helping them to understand that they can connect their math class to an impactful career. How do they have those conversations so that students understand, am I sitting at a desk all day? Am I up moving around? What kind of people do I work with? What does that atmosphere look like? What kind of training do I need to have? And I think really once the educators understood the process, they were all in. And we also, as part of the completion of that, and for them to earn grad credits that were also attached to this, they were able to earn 3 grad credits through Ashland University. Um, they had to complete a project or a lesson plan that they would take back into their classrooms or into their buildings, that would make an impact with what they learned from the different industry sectors. So I think for them, the difficulty, they're here to nod their heads, but I think the difficulty was, how do you narrow this down? Really, all the information that they took in was so valuable and just really so new to several, that how do you hone that in? How to, and as an educational service center, how do we continue to nurture and support them as they go through that process even now?
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for those. If you participated this summer, could you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So what do you, from your perspective, Erica, what would you like educators to know about your business? So you had like 20 some come through this summer, but those that didn't get an opportunity to come through, what would you like them to know about your industry and IT and about CGI specifically?
Yeah, so we want people to know that technology consulting, it's a constantly growing industry. And as it grows, we need individuals to be prepared to enter that workforce, having the technical skills, having the soft skills. As a software developer, I don't know everything at once, and that's okay. A lot of my day is problem solving on the job. So that's a really important skill, being able to problem solve. Yes, we get frustrated, but how do you work through that? And within our company, there's lots of lateral and vertical job changes based on how closely we work together. So you might start out as a software developer and then maybe transition into a business analyst. So there's tons of different opportunities, and we really want you to know that we are a resource for you. We're a resource for the community, for the educators, and we just want to help in any way that we can.
From an educator perspective, what would you like business to know about Lead the Way Learning Academy specifically, and just about the teacher educator experience? Like, how can business better understand what the teachers and educators are going through?
I think Lead the Way is in a unique position where we can kind of serve as a bridge to some of the schools that we're already serving. And so, just for businesses, I would say definitely reach out to us. We're open to have conversations and try to link you with the schools. Again, this is something we've been doing for a while now. It's not something that's new. So, definitely reach out and we can help have that conversation. Whether you're a school or a business, whether we end up having a partnership or not, definitely a conversation that we're willing to have and kind of walk through that process with you.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about the population of your students at Groveport. What should businesses know about Groveport, specifically the district, and about your teachers and what they're looking for?
Uh, there's that's a loaded question because there's a lot. Um, our kids are very passionate, but it comes back to they're not exposed to a lot. So I think the biggest thing is when they come and they want to be present with our kids, one is have patience with them because we have students who have very real challenges in life. So and help when they if they want to come and be present with our kids, we're asking that they're going to be present with the team group support that some of our students may need, but understand that if they work with us and with the student and with the family, that they're going to be able to change lives. Um, so it's also the patience because from again from my perspective and my role and responsibility, it's you may not be you're going probably going to be able to get a couple kids at a time because I also understand that businesses can't take on large groups of kids. We understand that as well, but it's being upfront and honest with teachers, with kids, and with administrators to see how can we um, most effectively work together.
So I want to remind everyone again, the educators went through 4 different industry sectors: IT, manufacturing, construction, and healthcare. Thinking about those experiences, I'm going to start again with Anthony and Casey. Did you have an aha moment? Was there when you were at any of those where you just went, "Oh my gosh, I've never thought about this before," or "This is totally new to me"?
You wanna go first?
Uh, yeah, I can go first. The aha moment actually was with Mr. White, with One Columbus. Thank you. When he presented that raw data about where Columbus was 10 years ago, where it is today, and where it's projected to go 10 years from now, and the different careers and businesses and the growth that's going to happen. That for me was the aha moment. Like, this is something I can take back to my families to say, hey, listen, when we talk about why are we learning certain content, right, and certain material in our classrooms, this is why. And why do we have, and then also bring this back to my teachers and saying, this is how we need to help make education relevant, right, to what's going on in the world. So we're appropriately preparing them for life. Whether it's soft skills, whether it's connecting algebra 2 to whatever else is going on, right? So that was the aha moment for me is because again it's how do we make education relevant, how are we inspiring kids to make this okay, I can use this and it's going to translate to something that's going to be real. So
For me, it was Ohio Health, and I think as the youth and as us as educators go, every place you go for employment has so many different careers within that business. And so Ohio Health kind of had like a career fair set up, but it was for us educators. And we went around and I was like, wow, there's all these different fields you can get into. And there were multiple entry level ones, including the surgical tech where they're cleaning the utensils that are used during surgery. That's an entry level position that pays 18 plus an hour, and you can get tuition reimbursement. So understanding that that's a pathway to get school paid for, and just understanding these different ways that you can get into a place of employment, but also get the benefits and get the opportunities that come with it. That was kind of eye opening, where it's like, I can't just look at a place now and say, oh, this is this this business X does this. No, you got to get there and see it for yourself to see all the different pathways within the business.
When you think about, I'm glad you mentioned a healthcare facility because, beyond the doctors and nurses and, there's security, there's technology, everything is there, maintenance, the whole 9 yards. Um, Erica, did you have any aha moments during your experience?
Yeah, I had several. I think it was already mentioned, but one of the other activities we did was designing a wireframe for a school supply website, which is kind of, you can think of it as like a blueprint or just like an outline of what that homepage will look like. And the teachers and educators came up with so many different creative designs, and they just had really different ways of looking at it. And that brings into it like how much consulting and working in tech is about coming up with those creative solutions to problems. Another one was, of course, the conversation about the different pathways to get into technology. You don't need that traditional degree necessarily. And then the last one I would say is that they weren't aware of how many free resources there are. There's lots of different websites where you can learn about coding, try out software development. And so we gave them time during the session to get on their laptops and just kind of explore those different websites. One of them was called Free Code Camp, which was my first exposure to trying coding on my own. And what's really neat about it is that it teaches you different skills in small little steps. They're mini challenges. And if you get stuck and you've tried things for a long time, it gives you hints and even videos that explain the different process and approaches to solving those different challenges. So that was really neat to see them get into that. And it was kind of hard to move forward in the presentation because they were so excited to like try the different websites and see how things work.
Jama, did you have a moment during this whole process where you're like, gosh, I didn't think about that, or this is really interesting?
I honestly just enjoyed watching the light bulbs go off. When I opened it up the first day and we were kind of laying the foundation for what the workforce needs are now and in the future, I started it off by telling the educators, we have a shortage of teachers. So my ask for you is not to leave education when you find a career that you're exposed to and you find exciting. So that was fun to watch those. I've even had some afterwards say, man, I really am interested in that career. So yeah.
Had a lot of educators in the upper grades. Is this applicable for the K through 12 space in the lower grades?
100%. Yeah.
What could that look like?
Really, it needs to be in the lower grades. We need to start having these conversations at an earlier time and really letting the kids role play and just have exposure. You know, not I'm sure not the parents in here, but generally parents are really depending on education to prepare their students for everything. And that means what they want to do for a career. And so it's really hard. There's a lot of pressure on education. So the more we can have those conversations at a younger age, even if it's a professional from here that goes into an elementary school and reads a book about a career that they do, it doesn't have to be, flashy and exciting. It just needs to be relevant and connected. So,
This is a loaded question, obviously, but we want to continue doing this, correct?
yes, absolutely.
So going forward, did the experience that we all went through in June, did it meet your initial vision, or how would you envision it differently?
Well, the business partners that made this happen really did an amazing job. I think really opening it up to more industry. I think, we started with 4, but there's so many more out there we need to expose our educators to. So I think that the challenge is going to be scaling it, growing it, and, continuing to just partner with businesses. But absolutely, this is going to become much larger than it was this past year.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you had an opportunity yet to take back anything to actually put into curriculum back in any of the classes?
Absolutely. I think it just kind of gave us more pathways to kind of gear things toward. And then even just the connection with Ohio Health, we've already got students being employed there. So just figuring out, the ways to navigate the pathways and making those links has been huge. Even with the schools, we've linked with different schools from there. We've linked with New Albany schools. So to me, I came away from the whole thing inspired by the businesses opening up their doors, but the educators, like somebody mentioned, it's June. They could be vacationing on the beach with their families, but they were dedicated and they were locked in and met some great people from Gahanna schools, Bexley schools, Reynoldsburg. I think Hamilton Township, New Albany, are a lot of different districts represented.
I love what you just said about the students that as a result of that connection that was made at Ohio Health during the boot camp, you now have students placed in roles at Ohio Health. Can you talk about what some of those roles might be?
Yeah, so they have like environmentalist, which is kind of like fancy word for janitorial, but that's that entry level, and that's something that's a flexible schedule. It's 3 to 4 hour shifts, and so our high school students can do that. And then we had a couple of students that have graduated that were trying to figure out their way to pay for school, and so what they decided to do is that surgical tech program where they basically clean the utensils at a facility and get those ready, but then they have that connection to Columbus State to get their school paid for, and they can go into nursing or whatever medical pathway they want to.
That's amazing. Casey, what plans do you have for things you learned and getting that back into the classroom experiences with with some of your teachers?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's multiple things. One, again, I know I've said this a lot, but it's presenting information to parents that way they're well informed, so they understand what's going on, so they can help support their child through this as well. And that's a great school community partnership that we're also trying to continue to grow too, right? So there's that piece. The other piece is helping and supporting my teachers to grow, to learn more about what's going on within their different pathways and presenting more unique work-based learning opportunities that's going to be better suited for each individual student. I mean, it'd be great if we can have all one, it's easier to have more kids go to one place and do something, but that's not always going to be what's best for the kid, right? Um, so it's okay, what work-based learning opportunities can I connect my kids with, so that's going to help prepare them and what they want to do with their life. So it's trying to work in that specific place. The last piece that I'm working through right now is continuing to grow our pathways. How can I structure this? How can I vertically align it down to the middle school level? And then making sure that, again, from the intentional piece to that, we're trying to work through that. So all those multifaceted ways we're doing right now.
When we talk about work-based learning, what does that look like? What is an experience? If I'm an employer and I'm approached by someone that from the school saying, we'd love to participate with you in work-based learning, what could that look like?
It can be a whole variety of different ways. So it can be interviews. It can be giving project-based little activities for they can work on and continue to grow through as well. We have different classes and courses that kind of connect with each pathway. They have to move through too. So again, these different work-based learning activities, when they work with companies, say, okay, listen, so here's the course that you're working with, here's the standards that you're working with. Okay, here's some different tasks and things that relate to what our business does that connects to your coursework. So again, you have to have these conversations and things like that. So it can be a multitude of things. It's kind of hard to sit here and say these it's not these like 4 or 5 different things. There's a wide variety.
So if I'm a business owner, there's some creativity there. There are some things that we could do that I might say, I just want to come in and do mock interviews with your students, and that's okay.
It could be that they can come in and do internships. They can come in and do different tasks and things like that into your building. So we have capstones, so our kids have the ability to leave our school and go to different businesses, shadow and see what's going on, ask questions. They can do a paper about a specific aspect of a job. They can actually perform the task. So yeah, a wide variety.
And I would add, Kelly, those can be paid and unpaid experiences too.
That's a very good point. I'm going to open the floor now to those in the room that would like to ask questions of our panel. So does anybody?
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I have 3 questions. I had so many more, but I'll just stick with my 3. One, okay, when you all were talking about the jobs that are coming up, and luckily Kelly asked one of my questions, what things are you seeing that are coming up that are newer? Social media has become a big thing, right? Are you all seeing students who are really interested in becoming influencers or doing something like that? And are you okay? I'm asking this because the way that industry is going, it's very unhealthy and toxic. But if they are led in a more healthy way, it could be done right. You know what I mean? So are you all seeing people that are interested in that? Is that something that you're helping with? I know.
I can go ahead and answer it. Yes, I have a lot of students who are interested in trying to be influencers. I have one student in particular who will walk around and he will record different things all the time. Super energetic individual. But to your point, so we have a multimedia pathway, right? So and what we're trying to learn, what we're trying to grow within that is okay, multimedia. My question to you is, what do you think when you hear multimedia?
I don't think of social media influencer.
So that is multimedia is that, but it's also news, right? It's also shows. Again a wide variety. Pathway is very broad. So how can we get partnerships, right, to come in and help oversee some things that are going on to help provide kids with rural learning experiences that are going to connect, right, and expose them to what this can be, because even with multimedia there's a lot of different roles within multimedia, right? So again, this exposure, how do these things connect and how do I get to that point? So yes, we do have that. We're still trying to continue to grow that, but yes, we have a lot of students at the high school level who are interested in that.
And if I can add, I think it's right up there with, we used to hear students say, I want to be an NFL player, I want to be NBA. I feel like those are almost tied now, honestly, when you hear students. But I think the important thing really that we're trying to accomplish is to give them a tool set, give them tools in their tool belt that if that doesn't work out, you've got some backup plans, you've got some certifications that are relevant to industry. So education is really trying to shift into that focus where students are equipped, whether they are successful with their first choice or they're not. So
Take a stab at that one too. So our approach is a little different in being we're trying to help the student find a way to monetize their passion. And so our program, first step, you want to make sure they graduate high school, and then they have to go into 5 different pathways. So go to college, military, trades, gainfully employed, which means making $15 an hour or more, or entrepreneur track. And so just kind of again, we do a lot of social emotional learning too. So it's reframing, right? And so the reframing of it is okay, you want to be an influencer. Are you really going to have 1 million followers, and are you able to monetize those likes? Maybe not, but what you can do is there's businesses around here that need a social media rep, and you already know how to do that because you do it every day as a young person. So how do we teach you how to monetize your passion? I'm not telling you not try to be an influencer. Let's monetize your passion in the meantime, and you can work on that influencer piece.
I appreciate that perspective. Thank you. Okay, very quickly, I appreciate you all's patience. Um, the you all were talking about helping your students find gainful employment, and I work in social emotional learning, emotional intelligence, and there's a mindset around money that comes with bringing in more. And so, if your students are making more than their parents, or if they've come from nothing and all of a sudden they have something, and they may not feel worthy, they may feel like, oh, I owe everybody else all this money. How do you help them with that mindset around bringing in the money?
I think Casey kind of spoke to it earlier. They're involving the parents in what they do, and for us, parental engagement is a big thing as well.
Okay, good.
So we only have young people for so many hours out of the day, right? So we have to work on the home as well. So we're big on parental involvement, parental workshops. So I think you have to treat the whole home, whether it's younger siblings, older siblings, parents, grandparents. You have to have that conversation with the whole home.
Okay.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, it's more often than not, at least the conversations that I have with the parents, right? They want to see their kids succeed. So it's not necessarily that the kids that I have conversations with that they feel unworthy. It's not believing they can, right? Because it's the experiences that they've had and they get told these things all the time, but they don't experience it. So that's why this exposure and really having this hard raw data points to validate where we're coming from, that's what we're starting to have the success in terms of the conversations. To be honest with you, some of the parents are starting to really shift and kind of what they're thinking too from a career standpoint because we're exposing them to these things as well.
That. And then last question. Are you working with higher ed on any of these things? Because I'm hearing you say, the kids don't need to go to college. And we've heard that. I was a kid forced to college and forced into debt. Yay. But now with that shift, I used to work in College Credit Plus, and a lot of the students, they saw that as an opportunity, but then the colleges were shifting what credits counted because of, what we were telling them to do. And so are you all working with higher ed on this, or is it, I don't know, like what's your connection with higher education and which
I mean, as a service center, we do work with higher ed. For the boot camp itself, really, I think I feel that educators understand higher ed already because they've been through it. Um, Really, this is to get educators to understand the workforce, and what those jobs look like, and whether they need degrees or not. It's really helping them to understand, does a student need to be strong in math? Do they need to have critical thinking skills? Do they need to be able to problem solve? Just, you had asked an aha moment. One thing I did hear from an educator that I just thought of was, they had said, through COVID, we came out of that, and students, we were just giving them some leniency because of their mental health state, and they were just overwhelmed and stressed. And they're saying, I need to get more rigid on my rules because I'm allowing them still to have some extra time and to give them, a pass for this, or saying, you know, let's work together to figure out how you can get this assignment in. And they're realizing that's not helping the workforce. That doesn't set students up for success because in the workforce, you have deadlines. There isn't someone saying, it's okay, I understand you've had a bad day. Business needs to continue. So does that answer your question?
I have more about that, but that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for our panel?
Hello, I'm Doug. I'm with CGI also. And thank you for the panel. You did a great job, especially Erica.
Yeah.
I have a two-part question. I think the first part for Anthony and Jema about how do you, in terms of, I think Casey mentioned the structure, how do you help prepare the businesses to take in the students? Because you could have two students going to two different places because one, with all good intentions, one business may not be able prepared to, integrate them, onboard them. So that's part A. And part B, I think maybe more for Casey. So, I'm speaking as a father with an adult son with autism. I'm sure the student body, the neurodivergency has increased over the years. How do you help students prepare for this path when there's so many different learning styles and so many different, as I think you intimated, so many different needs, family needs, backgrounds, etc.
So I can go ahead and start with the preparation. Casey mentioned taking their time to really connect with employers. I think that's important because it takes time to make sure the businesses are ready for that onboarding process, because the last thing we want to do is have a bad experience for the student or the business. So if we bring a student in who really doesn't have a structure or doesn't know what they're there for, and the business doesn't really know what to do with them, then we've just really put a cog in the wheel for that student. We've really maybe nixed a pathway that they might have loved. So that piece is really critical. The schools are required to complete work-based learning agreements. So the students are covered, for career tech students are covered with through Bureau of Workmen's Comp. There's no liability to businesses. We really help the businesses understand the minor labor laws and what's expected. So really there's an education that goes into connecting with a business and laying that foundation of what to expect. Really laying out the competencies and what they hope for those students to learn, the exposure that they want them to get. And then really screening students to make sure they're getting students that are going to give the business a good experience. Because again, the last thing we want to do is erupt that relationship. So
Yeah, our organization, we use a series of assessments and basically like workshops to help identify what the students are really interested in. A huge tool for us has been Ohio Means Jobs has a lifestyle calculator. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but you go in and you put, what you want. So what type of house you want, the car, how many kids you plan on having, how much you think you're going to spend on clothes and all this. But what that does is it gives you how much money you need to make per year. And then based on that, it tells you what careers in Columbus, or let's say you wanted to live in Atlanta, right? How much or what careers make how much? And then from that, you got the careers, now it tells you what type of education. And so from there, we're evaluating that. I also have a son that's on the spectrum. He's 20 years old. He goes to OU Lancaster, and his thing is finance. And I know there's a lot of resources we lean on in the neurodiverse community, and there's a lot of resources that can kind of help young people find jobs that suit them and really find their passion. So for each student, it's case by case. The thing that gives us the flexibility is as a learning academy, we don't have to be as cookie cutter as the traditional education process. So we can kind of adjust a little bit more to each student.
Yeah, to piggyback off that. So prior to me getting into this, my role as an administrator, I was a special ed teacher. Okay. So I understand exactly the question that you're asking. And obviously you understand from my IEP standpoint, there's a post-secondary section in it that we're having all these different conversations, but that's also just one unique individual too. If we're going to look at the broader aspect of the whole student population that we're looking at, that's one instance, right? And then you have some students may have even more uh, severe needs, right? And some that may not need so much. So this comes down to, again, what people do we have in our school and how are we having conversations with this student from the moment we get them until the moment that they leave. So that way we are appropriately directing them in the path that they want to go to, as well as what path they're going to be successful in. So there's career cluster inventories, there's, you know, grades and data and stuff like that to try to help support having these real conversations with parents and students, right? But from the career tech aspect, if we're going to narrow this conversation down to that, it's okay. We have a lot of other resources. We have Lead the Way. We have other special education supports that are coming in to help navigate these conversations so that way we can appropriately place them. But we have students with special needs that are in our career tech pathways that are actually excelling, but it's because it meets the needs and the interests of that student. So again, like what Mr. Murphy is saying, it is that case by case situation.
We have time for one more coming your way.
Questioner. So here's my question. When you're sending the students out, what grades are going out? Is it 9 through 12? Okay, so you said no, so I want to know more about that. Two, because you did make the comment about the transportation. How does that get worked out? And then what is the length or the time frame of the program? And then final question is, are the students going to work during the school day? And if so, how do they make up that academic time?
Yes. So the last, where do you want me to start? Okay. So please remind me what the first question. I will start there. The grades, right? How we structure it is we have students doing work-based learning hours with their career tech pathways at their junior year. Okay. The one thing that we're trying to not do is we're not trying to compete with the career centers. So we're trying to be unique within ourselves and to, again, really expand the opportunities to expose our students, right? Because we want to have a great relationship and partnership with the career centers. So, okay, so how can we work in unison with each other, right? We want to make sure that our kids, and this goes down to state testing, we want to make sure that we are front loading a lot of resources and supports to make sure our kids are getting the foundational skill sets in the curriculum from freshman to sophomore year. Outside of that, then okay, how are we going to branch off to help really support what we call our 3 E's: education, employment, or enlistment? How are we going to help support them in one of those three broader areas, right, of post-secondary? So that's why we've structured it the way that we've structured it, because we want to look at the whole aspect of a child, right? So that's why we've structured it from juniors to senior year. Okay. Also, businesses can only take students of certain age. Some businesses won't take kids in to do certain things unless they're 18 years old. Some will let them come in when they're 16 years old. So we have to be flexible, but also intentional again with our design and structure of how we're operating as a school to make sure that we are having all of our students be successful. What was one of the other questions? It is full year. It is June for the like their pathway. Oh, it depends. It depends. Juniors will, if they've done a really good job the freshman and sophomore year of earning their credits, they might be able to have they'll be able to have a capstone the last couple periods of the day. and we'll organize that, and we'll have articulation agreements so parents understand what's going on, and we will communicate with parents how we're going to get transportation here to and from. We can link up with Lead the Way. There's other supports that we have to help with that. If we can't get a kid to come out, how can we get a business and somebody to come in to be able to provide those work-based learning hours? So it goes back to that, what is work-based learning, right? It's a multitude of things. Senior year, if a kid has done a really good job, they can, if they only need so many classes, they can come in for half the day and then they can leave to go work. In fact, I would love to try to get more of our kids to go get jobs with some of these business partnerships that we have. So that way, not only are they getting work-based learning hours, but they're also working and getting paid. And we're fast tracking them into their professional career. So again, I mean, we're trying to create these opportunities for kids, but we also want to make sure that we're setting kids up for success because we also have responsibilities with public education as well, right?
Thank you. We'll give opportunity for folks to connect after we close out. But please join me in thanking the panel this morning and thanking all of you for being here. It's a great conversation and one that I know we'll continue to have and continue to inform all of you about. Now, if you would join me in welcoming Charlotte Joseph from Local IQ.
Hi, thank you all very much. I'm Charlotte. I'm a senior multimedia sales executive at Local IQ. I'm always happy to be at the Chamber's Experience series. Let me just point out that we have an odd thing in common, that we too have employees in the Philippines and India. So we're exploring that as well. And I will tell you, as an advertising person, that soccer in the Philippines is not the same graphic as soccer in Ohio. But we are the marketing arm of the Gannett USA Today network. And I work with businesses to break through the clutter in advertising. The most significant and relevant part of that the last 2 years is that all advertising is recruitment advertising. That all opportunities to put your message out in front of the community is an opportunity to put your message out in front of someone who may one day come to work with you. Recruitment marketing used to be as simple as putting an ad in the classifieds. And I don't know if you've looked at your paper today, but there really aren't many classifieds. And then we went through the job board, and now we go through getting through the inbound systems. So recruitment advertising is basically advertising for your business. So fortunately, I get to do what I do to support journalism, and I would be remiss if I didn't say also here this morning is Ben Lanka, who is the Dispatch's business editor. So if everybody could take an opportunity just to say hi to Ben and start to tell your story that way. I want to say thanks to the panel, thanks to Kelly. We are always proud at the Dispatch to support the Columbus Chamber programs. And as always, if there's anything we can do for you, just let us know. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlotte. Well, with that closes out our program. Thanks everyone for being here today. It was wonderful to see all of you. Please come back to additional chamber events that we have coming up. Check our website. And if you parked in the Marconi garage, don't forget to stop by the front desk to have your parking validated. Thank you to GBQ for assisting with that as well. Have a great day.